Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this workshop meeting of the Lower Paxton Township Board of Supervisors. We'll call the meeting to order and ask Mrs. Lindsay to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I am aware, yes. This is true. Okay, at this point, we will open the podium for public comment. Before we do, I would like to announce that prior to this board meeting, the board met in executive session to receive information from the township manager and staff. We also, beginning at 5 o'clock, had a public budget workshop, and we were able to work our way through the entire budget process during that meeting as well. Public comment is for any item not on the agenda. If you're here to speak to an item that's on the agenda, you may do so at that time. Is there any public comment on an item not on the agenda? Please come to the podium and give us your name and address.
Good evening, board members. Jack Doherty. I'm here tonight on behalf of the Friendship Center Operating Board. I just wanted to give you an update on some upcoming events that we have going on at the Friendship Center and some community outreach programs. First of all, we have our annual Christmas tree lighting on December 6th. It's a open public event. Anyone is invited to come. We're going to have a DJ, photo booth, the Northside School Band's going to be there, and of course a visit from Santa. So if you're looking for a jump start on the holiday season, please everybody come out and join us on December 6th. That's from 7 to 8:30. Just also, we'd like to give a shout out to the Linglestown and Paxtonia fire departments. They've assisted us with their time and their equipment in setting up for that, so thank you very much to them. We will also have, in conjunction with the Christmas tree lighting, is our annual Toys for Tots program. That'll culminate that night on December 6th. We're collecting toys right now, working with the United States Marine Corps. We'll have representatives there that night to collect the toys, so if you're looking for a donation site, come on out to the Friendship Center. We also have an annual food drive that's taking place. We're working with Cupboard for Cavalry. We'll be collecting food through November 30th, and you can drop it off there. We'll make sure it gets to them. And we have a new program this year. We're working with Lower Paxton Township Police Department. There is a fundraiser that's going on where if you donate toys or food for families, police officers that are in need, you can get a free pass for the Friendship Center to use in December, and then December 13th and the 20th, I believe it is. So again, if you want to donate for those, bring it out to the police department and you'll get a free pass. And finally, we have our winter program guide that's being mailed out this week. Registration for all programs will be held the first week of December. As a reminder for members, there are many free programs when you become a member at the Friendship Center, so make sure you jump on those right away that first week of December. And we also will have information in the upcoming program guide about our 20th anniversary celebration. That'll be January 24th. Again, an open house and a celebration. So come on out and join us on January 24th and celebrate our 20 years.
Any questions?
Jack, I'm sorry. Did you say January 20th or 24th?
24th.
24th. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, members.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for the update.
Thank you. Any other public comment for an item not on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, we will now go to item 4, which is presentation of financial support to the township's 3 fire companies from the Lower Paxton Township Community Engagement Committee. Mr. Thomas, good evening.
Good evening. Okay, good evening, board members. And I've already been properly schooled on using this microphone. She's waving in the back there. And also, I know better than to rearrange the chairs also. So let me start by saying good evening, everyone. And my name is Tom Thomas, and I'm the chairman of the Lower Paxton Township Community Engagement Committee. And our mission is to act as an advisory body, and we consist of members of the Parks and Recreation Board, the Friendship Center Operating Board, the Arts Advisory Council, and the Greenway Committee. We're appointed by the Lower Paxton Board of Supervisors, and the committee's primary function is to service act as a resource to the parent bodies in their attempts to secure funding and community volunteerism. During the past 6 years, the CEC has operated a 5K race that took place at the Friendship Center, and has helped us raise funds for various items requested by our parent boards. This past year, we included providing some funding for the 3 fire departments of Lower Paxton Township, as well as the local EMS organization. For the past couple of races, each of the 3 fire departments and EMS organization attended the race, and they brought a variety of equipment and let people look at them, talk with the various members of the 3 departments, and it was a good way to get people to know what they're doing and help them understand some of the things that the important functions that they do. We think it's a great way to get people involved, and we're always obviously very glad to have these 4 organizations in our community. They certainly do a lot for us. We would not want to be without them. And we hope to get continued support from these organizations for the future races and events that we hold at the Friendship Center. So tonight we're here to present some checks from the proceeds of the race to the fire chiefs of each of the companies, as well as to our local EMS, and we are giving them half of the profits from the race. So will the representatives of the 3 fire departments and EMS organizations step forward for a check presentation? And we're going to do them in alphabetical order. No particular reason. Okay, we're going to do them in reverse alphabetical order. Okay. Oh, okay. All right, very good. Very good. Okay. In that case, let me give you yours first.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much.
Okay.
On behalf of, I have a big mouth, so I'll just talk. I don't need a microphone. But on behalf of South Central EMS, we thank not only Lower Paxton Township, but also the community for this check and also their contributions to South Central EMS. So we'll definitely put it to good use. Okay?
I'm sure.
Congratulations.
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Next check, and we'll do these in reverse order then. So- They're not here, okay. Terry's saying they're not here, okay. All right, Paxtonia Fire Department, and you're gonna be accepting,
Yes, I'll
Those?
accept all the fire companies on their behalf.
okay. Okay, that being the case,
I won't cash them, but I'll accept them.
okay. That being the case, Linglestown Fire Company
Thank you very much.
and Colonial Park Fire Company.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, I want to thank all of you, all the fire companies and EMS for all the things that they do. We certainly would not want to be without them in our community. We have a vibrant community here, and having a vibrant community, one of the things necessary for that is having a proper fire department and EMS department. So,
Thank you very much.
thank you so much.
Yes, greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Thank
Thank you.
everybody else too, please.
And thank you to the Community Engagement Committee for the work that you're doing. We greatly appreciate it. We'll now have a presentation and discussion. There's been a traffic study conducted of Crumbs Mill Road. This has been an ongoing discussion. We have folks here from HRG. If you would come to the podium, please. Give us your names for the record, and we'll proceed to your presentation.
I'm Eric Stump with HRG, and I have Ryan Hostetter here with me as well with HRG. As a little background, PennDOT had performed a road safety audit along Crumbs Mill Road and made some suggestions for consideration and further evaluation and review by the township. Specifically, there were 2 intersections, Crumbs Mill Road and Doan Road, and then Crumbs Mill and Grace Road, that they had some sight distance concerns, and so we've looked into those a little bit further. They also suggested consideration of raising the speed limit along Crumbs Mill Road from 25 miles an hour to 35 miles an hour. And we can talk on that a bit. And then they also asked us, or suggested that we review guide rail along the corridor, and specifically near Larrabee Drive, to see if there was improvements that could be made there to the roadside to improve the conditions there. Ryan and I both kind of worked on the site. That's why we're both here. I specifically looked at those first 2 items, the 2 traffic control items with sight distance concerns, and Ryan had looked at the speed limit postings, as well as the guide rail and roadside treatments. With regard to the two intersections, Crumbs Mill Road and Doan Road, that is currently has a stop sign on Doan Road, and then Crumbs Mill is free flow in both directions coming through there. As you're sitting on Doan Road looking to the left, there's a retaining wall that's right up against the road. It limits the sight distance a bit. We went out and measured the sight distance, confirmed that it really is deficient for for safe entry onto the roadway from Doan Road. So we are recommending a stop sign for that direction of Crumbs Mill to stop the southbound Crumbs Mill traffic. We are not recommending a stop sign in the other direction, so northbound will continue to be free flow, and then southbound would have a stop sign. It would be supplemented with a sign that says opposing traffic does not stop. And then likewise, the existing stop sign on Doan Road should be supplemented with another stop sign, or with another sign that says traffic from right does not stop. Again, just so that people coming up to the intersection don't think that it's an all-way stop or expecting the northbound traffic to stop. For northbound traffic approaching the intersection, you have adequate sight distance, so there's really no reason to stop that traffic, so it's best to leave that direction free flow. As you're coming southbound along Crumbs Mill Road to the intersection, again, to the stop sign that we're recommending, because of that retaining wall, sight distance to the stop sign would be a little restricted. So we're also recommending a stop sign on the left side of the road, just so you can see that a little bit further in advance, as well as a stop ahead sign. And then also for the two stop controlled approaches, recommending stop bars, again, just to enhance the visibility to approaching drivers that there's a stop condition ahead. Are there any questions on that one before I move on to the second intersection? Okay. The second one then is Crumbs Mill Road and Grace Road. That one currently is an all-way stop, so both directions of Crumbs Mill has a stop sign, as well as Grace Road. PennDOT had concern about northbound traffic along Crumbs Mill and whether they had adequate sight distance to stop coming to that stop sign, and thought you can't remove the stop sign because you don't have necessarily adequate sight distance from Grace looking back either. So their consideration was to consider making Grace Road one-way enter only, so that there was no outbound traffic, and that would potentially alleviate the need for the stop sign on that northbound approach that has limited sight distance, approaching the stop sign. And when we looked at it, we found two things. One, even if it were one-way entering, cars making a left onto Grace Road would still have deficient sight distance or marginally deficient sight distance looking for northbound traffic. So you'd still want to stop the northbound traffic along Crumbs Mill. And additionally, when we actually went out there and measured the sight distance coming northbound to the stop sign, found that it is adequate for 25 miles an hour and even a little bit faster. So our recommendation there is to maintain the all-way stop that's there, maintain the two-way flow on Grace Road. And really the only recommendation there, it looks like some stop bars have worn away over time, just to refresh them, again, just to reinforce the stop condition for all three approaches. Any questions on that one? That'll turn it over to Ryan for the next couple items.
Good evening. So I'm going to pick up where Eric left off with discussion on the safety review for increased speed limit on Crumbs Mill Road. PennDOT RSA specifically pointed out two sections of the roadway. First section being from Route 39 to Paxton Church Road, and the second section being from Commerce Drive to Colonial Road, being increased to 35 mile an hour. So as part of our safety analysis here, we looked at roadway geometric conditions, the horizontal alignment of the road, the slopes on the roadway itself, and the vertical profile of the road. Evaluated that per current standards, design standards by PennDOT and AASHTO, and Our recommendations, based on what we have found, is to keep the speed limit at 25 miles an hour. If you wanted to pursue this a little more, you could do a speed study, but the roadway geometrics really don't align with increased speed limit. Is there any questions on that? And obviously, our report has a lot of information in it, including the geometrics and the profiles that we were able to pull from readily available survey data. The next section we looked at was the guide rail near Larrabee Drive on Crumbs Mill Road. If you're familiar with the area, which I'm sure you are, there's a section of guide rail just below Larrabee Drive that's pretty dilapidated, does not meet current design criteria. So we looked at this area, and our recommendation is to extend the pipe. There's an existing pipe that leads from a stormwater facility in the adjacent development, comes under Crumbs Mill Road and exits. We would look at extending that pipe at a minimum, let me back up. There's two options that we came up with. The first option is an extension to that pipe, an 8-foot extension of the pipe, building a better slope to support the roadway there, and then installing guide rail to meet current design criteria. So that would leave you with a roadway shoulder that meets current criteria and a guide rail installation that meets current criteria with a pipe that's a little bit longer. The second option would be extending the pipe further outside of what we call the clear zone, so we can remove the guide rail altogether. So we'd extend the pipe, I think it's about 24 or 32 feet downstream. We would fill the slope in and get rid of the guide rail altogether. Now, as part of that, we will also need to remove the utility pole. So we'd have to relocate the utility pole, work with PP&L. We looked at it, it's feasible to do. It'd be a cost to the project. As part of this evaluation, we did put a cost estimate to go together for both options, figuring that would play into the determination as to what the township might like to do. The first option, which is just extending the pipe 8 feet and replacing the existing guide rail with new guide rail, is roughly $100,000. And the second option would be $120,000. Now, both these options do include replacing 8 foot of the pipe underneath the road, because when we were out and we inspected it, that last section of pipe, the bottom's all eroded or corroded out of it, definitely needs to be replaced. We would also recommend, if you were to go forward with either one of these options, consider replacing the whole entire pipe under the road while you're out there and working. It's a metal pipe, it's corroded, it's not going to have a lot of life left in it.
If I could just ask a question, Mr. Klein, were we aware of that?
That the pipe was shot?
Yeah,
No.
okay. So that's another one to add to the list. Okay.
Yeah. It's a little complicated in that there's a pipe from the stormwater drainage basin that ties into it, and you have to figure out, I guess, where those responsibilities lie between the township and the developer as far as who owns what. But yeah, it'd be a good idea.
Is that there by Stray Winds, Jeff?
Yes, between there and Larrabee.
Okay, okay.
So then there was one other item we looked at, and that is the curve warning signage at Larrabee Drive, or near Larrabee Drive on Crumbs Mill Road. And this is the S-turns. You go down past where the guide rail is, through that turn up over the hill, and the next turn. We evaluate the existing signing, and it seems to adequately warn motorists of the curvatures on the road. However, they don't quite meet the MUTCD standards. We laid out what signs could be added in the report and provided a sketch exhibit of what could be added. I think the cost estimate was around $11,000 to bring that signing up to meet MUTCD standards.
Mr. Gutschall, was this study done, refresh my memory, because we had a lot of complaints from residents over there?
Yeah, so initially it was as a result of I believe just a single complaint. As all or a majority of our traffic safety studies begin from a singular complaint, it's forwarded to the police department. They do their thing, and this one, as mentioned by HRG, PennDOT got involved because of the complexities of the project, really, for lack of better terms. And then from there, given the fact that we have continued development along that corridor, that'd be a good idea to have this more comprehensive study done through HRG.
Thank you.
Do we have any other board questions?
I guess it's partly question, partly comment. We know that it's a given. Everyone knows it. That the speed on Crumbs Mill is not observed at 25 miles an hour. So I do appreciate the fact that you're recommending we maintain 25. I would tend to think the curvature of that road, as well as the topography of up and down, in itself would be a slowing down device, if you will. So I guess my question, having said all that, that's what we already know. Will, in your opinion, do you believe additional signage and with curve, i.e., and also the stop signs, as you've now decided to place them, in reality, do you think it's going to curb the speed on Crumbs Mill?
No, I don't think it's going to curb the speed.
Thank you. I'm glad you were honest enough to say that.
Yeah, it's the signage is there as to warn motorist. I'd say probably 95% of the people that drive on Crumbs Mill are local residents that know the road. It's more the new people that come in to town or drive through this, or people that infrequently drive the road.
Or they use it as a shortcut.
Yeah, or they use it as a shortcut. That's where the new signage or the signage improvements will make them aware of the situation.
Perhaps my question was rhetorical.
Anybody have a non-rhetorical question?
Just for clarification, is PennDOT approved where we put the stop signs?
No, not on local roads.
No, just state roads.
There's no PennDOT involvement or oversight on the placement of stop signs. Still, it should be done in accordance with their standards, but they do not have purview necessarily.
Director, do we do any type of speed, I don't know the word I want to use, speed
Enforcement.
control, enforcement, yeah, there we go. That has been done in the past. Okay. Okay.
So, Mr. Chairman, even though my question may have been perceived as rhetorical, the amount of money that's being projected doesn't solve the problem that's being asked of us.
Point of clarification, you entitled your question rhetorical. It was so, but getting to your comment is any expenditure that we make is not going to fix what is the actual problem on the road. So
I don't think so.
But you can still improve safety even if you can't get people to slow down.
this is also
Maybe
true.
adding some of those stop signs also might help.
We have to tell you that stop signs are not an appropriate speed control device.
Yes,
Exactly.
That's
I
why
was going to
Thank
say
you.
I don't think we can do that.
that's why I asked my question.
There are different traffic.
However, they are an appropriate safety device
Yes, that's correct.
or traffic control device.
Yes, that's correct.
'Cause they
Many
have to
people
stop
think
at
that
'em.
stop signs are merely recommendations or suggestions.
My observation is that there are numerous people in this township who follow that theory, Mr. Chrisman. So,
There are an assortment of traffic calming devices, things like that, that could be implemented throughout the corridor to help curb speed. Things like that would be your best solution to trying to maintain slower speeds.
You mean like a speed bump or something?
Or humps, speed humps, not necessarily speed
speed
bumps.
Well, if we have some more enforcement and they're seen out there more often, they might go, whoa, and if they do get a ticket, it's like, I better slow down.
Yeah, and word travels fast in the community, so
Yeah, there you go.
you get a couple tickets and everybody's watching.
okay. Any public questions or comments? Okay, seeing none. Thank you for your report. Appreciate the information. Okay, now we need to have a presentation and discussion of Resolution 2019-30. And this proposed resolution would be to amend certain fees and charging for municipal services during the upcoming 2020 fiscal year. Mr. Godshall and Mrs. Serby are here.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, let me just kick it off before Mrs. Zerby gets into the meat of it. As mentioned in the budget session, the fee schedule for the township had not been revised since 2014, which is an extended period of time when you're talking about municipal fees as it relates to the services that are provided through the fees. So, obviously the fee schedule is not meant by law, is not meant to be a revenue source, but rather a source of providing coverage to providing municipal service. So the fee schedule is an appropriate tool to do that. And without further ado, Mrs. Zerby had put a lot of time in actually last year and early this year into preparing some revisions to particular fees. So she'd be the best to take you through those.
Good evening, Board. So again, fees haven't been increased since 2014. We have several fees that continue to grow and that we need to cover. As you know, we only have one building inspector. We use a third-party agency for probably about 80% of our inspections. So in order to cover our third-party inspection fees, we have that right in with our building permit fees. Other townships separate it out and you pay for their fees separate. We don't do that here, so we need to cover our fees through the building revenue. It's a very modest increase. To most houses, it would only be about a 10% increase on a new single-family residential. So currently, the average house in Lower Paxton, the permit fee would be increased about $100 for the building side of it and about $15 for the plumbing. So it's a modest increase. Some of the other increases would be for zoning hearing board to cover variances and special exceptions, with increases to solicitor fees. Signs are going to increase a little bit. Zoning verification letters, there is no charge for zoning verification letters right now. Those letters can take 2, 3, 4 hours to do. Most other townships charge for them. We have never. So we have a pretty modest fee of $50, which the people that get those letters don't have a problem with that $50. Other than that, I can answer any questions for any of the fees that you see on the proposal.
Questions, board members?
Well, I guess as Brad mentioned, by law, you can't use these as simple revenue generators. So if push came to shove, we'd be able to demonstrate, the cost involved and
Right.
amount of years since we adjusted them.
There's formulas. The building fee comes from a formula from the International Code Council. The fee in lieu for recreation is done through a formula. So most of them are formula-based, the increases.
Okay, thank you.
Mrs. Zerby, just a quick question. You may not know the answer, but I'll ask anyway. Of the proposed increases in our fees, is there any one in particular or two that you would identify that we're going to get the most pushback from and that we need to prepare for? And if so, could you identify it for us and then help us defend it?
So the only pushback I really see coming, we are the lowest building fee in, I think, anywhere around this area. People cannot believe what our building fee is right now. The only pushback I can see coming would be for the zoning permit and the stormwater permit. We charge $25 for them now. It was recommended that we go to $50 for zoning and $75 for stormwater. So I can see that being a bit of a pushback. If you're just coming in to get a fence, you're now going to pay $50 for a permit.
Okay. Thank you. But at least we have a good defense as well.
We do.
So thank you. I appreciate the ammunition and the shield.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions, board members? Any public questions or comments? Okay. Then we will hold that over for next week's meeting. We'll now move to, thank you, Amanda, appreciate it. We'll now move to presentation and discussion on a partnership with the Kiwanis Club of the Linglestown area. And we are now going to move from cats to dogs. This is a refreshing break. So what do we wish to do with the dog kennels, Director?
So approximately 9 months ago, the Kiwanis Club began conversations with the police department and a project to improve the kennels out there. Currently, there are 2 kennels out there that are outdoor kennels. They wanted to know if we would partner with them at a 50-50 percentage and upgrade that particular, those kennels. So the proposed project, I have a copy here that I can pass out to all of you. The proposed project with, in conjunction with the Kiwanis Club, would be to place these kennels, this new project, over top of the area where the kennels are at now. I believe Mr. Jeff Klein has been in communication with Lieutenant Bell and the Kiwanis folks as well. So the current building holds a 10 foot by 8 foot footprint. The new proposed building would be a 10 by 26 with a storage area at the end of it and 4 kennels. It would also improve an area outside of those kennels, 10 foot long, for an outside run for exercise for the animals while they're being housed there. And currently, our police department has $4,000 in Department of Ag reimbursement funding that we've had in our coffers for some time. And the Kiwanis Club, as I had mentioned earlier, wishes to match that $4,000. So that would take us up to $8,000. And to have an ideal facility, the initial numbers are coming in at approximately $10,000. So that's where the Kiwanis Club and the police department comes to the Board of Supervisors here, asking for approximately $2,000 in additional funding to complete the project. All the labor is being donated out there. I believe Mr. Klein was going to work as far as the grading with the Public Works folks so that the concrete pad could be poured. There's discussion in that funding, and I don't know the specifics of it, but also some heating and potentially air conditioning for the inside kennel portion of that as well. So it's definitely a project that's needed. It goes without saying, it's very comforting to know that the Kiwanis Club is willing to help us with this.
Yes. Are you adding to the number of dogs that are going to be kenneled there over what's currently?
So it would double. There's currently only room for two kennels there. We could actually kennel up to 4.
Can you explain again when we use these, how this need comes about?
This is usually a temporary housing, so to speak, for animals that we found running around that are just mainly canines, dogs that are running through the township. We've been very successful in working with Miss Urban and getting any animals that we find pushed out on social media in an effort to find their owners. But we hold those animals and feed them and take care of them for up to 48 hours in an effort to get them to their owners. If that can't happen, then we usually transfer them to the Humane Society at that point. And that's very rare that we're doing that based on our social media approach and our Crime Watch post of these dogs.
So Adam, they're going to be exactly where they're at now, will just increase.
Yes.
Okay, because we've had issues with neighbors complaining about the dogs barking. So at one point, I thought if we are going to do the pole barn, right, for sewer, I thought at one point they were looking at moving the kennels over there. Is that still, when we were out for road tour, they talked about maybe moving the kennels away because of the Pine Hollow residential area there. They were complaining that the dogs were so loud. So I think it's a great idea. My only concern is we're going from 2 to 4 kennels, and it's still going to be in the same area. I just don't know if the residents are going to appreciate, the barking if we put 4 dogs there.
Understood. And I know some of, again, the kennel with the improvement in kennel, I'm sure is going to improve the sound barrier depending
Okay.
on the type of construction there. But I can enter into that conversation with Mr. Klein and the Kiwanis Club
Okay.
to see if it's possible to move that to another area.
I can't remember, I think it was last year we did the road tour. We were out there, looked at the kennels, and we talked about moving.
Right.
And talked about, I'm just concerned because of the residents there had a concern from before. I mean, the air conditioning, all that, they'll be inside, but once they go out into the run, I'm not too sure about the barking.
Okay.
Especially since we're going from 2 to 4. So if you could just check with Mr. Klein and, I don't know if there was anything with the pole barn, if there was anything in conjunction. We had talked about that.
Okay,
moving
I will
on.
follow up with
But
you.
I think it's great that, is it Lingelstown Kiwanis?
Yes,
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's great that they're coming, through with a service project like that.
I agree.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Adam, a question. And I know they're volunteering their service on our property to what extent are they actually working and doing? I'm assuming like painting or construction.
Probably, my assumption based on the plan would be some block or bricklaying, construction of the fence post and the fencing and those sort of things.
Okay, then my question, the follow-up question is probably not to you, but probably to Brad and or to Steve. I trust that the township does have volunteer insurance. There is a separate rider.
Well,
I know I have
we've had volunteers from Rotary and other clubs go out
Right.
to Possibility Place.
Right.
It was built by volunteers.
But I just want to make sure that we have that insurance in place. I'm
Alicia's
involved with
shaking her
another
head.
organization where we're required to have it and supply copy. Okay, we're good.
We see the head going up and down.
Yes,
Very good.
That was a good answer, Alicia.
Yes, we have a policy.
All right, good.
Thank you, Alicia.
All right, thank you. I'll follow up.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Director.
Thank you.
And speaking of, we're going to have a presentation now on a proposal to update the LPT Authority Banking Depository.
Yes.
This is Noel.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, just give a quick introduction. If you recall, this is probably going on a couple, if not a few months now, wherein the staff had approached the board about taking a look at our banking services, particularly as it related to the authority. After we had done some research, we found that on the township side, we are receiving relatively competitive rates through our current depository. So now in front of us this evening is a proposal for the authority. The township had gone through discussions with a number of depositories. We have found, I have found coming to Lower Paxton that the board annually makes a motion to set its depository, which is a bit unusual in the municipal world. Typically that's done through administrative action, but keeping consistent with township tradition, before you this evening is the proposal, and so I anticipate at the next meeting or in a future meeting that the board would have on its agenda the selection and appointment of the next authority depository.
Wouldn't that be part of the reorganizational meeting in January on that agenda? I think that would be typically when we would.
I think
Yeah.
I think Alicia may ask us to take a look at doing that in a more quick fashion, given what it will take to get things up and running for the new year. But I'll let Alicia get into the particulars.
Okay.
All right. Pull the microphone a little closer.
I apologize because I forgot to give this to Shelley beforehand. So there isn't a projection of it, but you do have it at your desks. We are with PNC currently. We have been with them for the last 10 years. And there have been issues from the start. So we have looked over the course of the last several years at different places. One of the considerations is the fact that we do have people who need to go to the bank with cash deposits. So we would like something generally in the locale of the building. The branch for Fulton is over off of Union Deposit, which is kind of a little bit far. Fulton is not up to exactly what we would need for the quality and quantity of what the authority does. We did talk to FNB Bank. FNB Bank operates pretty much like PNC. They run a interest credit. So basically you have to house a minimum balance before you can offset the fees that they charge, and then they pay you interest if you are above that minimum balance. Currently at PNC, that minimum balance to offset all their fees is about $10 million. So we don't earn interest on about $10 million worth of cash that sits with the authority. So the bank that I found that I like the best at this point is S&T. They're the ones who took over Integrity's offices, so they're pretty convenient. They're actually a little closer than the PNC branch on Colonial Road. And they operate very similar to the original Commerce, and the gentleman who had helped their business plan on the government side actually did set up the business plan for Commerce. So what I like about S&T and talking with Lauren, S&T manages about $7.3 million, so you can see some of the background in your packet. And they have been around since 1902. They're getting a little more localized here. They were more of a Western bank prior, but they have a lot more branches here now. They offer, I spoke to her about two different scenarios. If I just wanted to take the accounts we currently have with the authority and place them into a no minimum balance, earning from $1 interest rate accounts, the rate would be set at 1.02%. I can also set the accounts in a money market status that I can sweep over, so I can have the operating account, which houses the majority of the money, sit in a money market account at 1.52, and I can sweep the money over when we pay bills to the checking account, which would earn 0.25%. So there's two different scenarios that they set up there that we can choose from. When I looked at FNB's proposal, theirs came in at a lower interest rate, and I would have to house about a minimum balance of $5 million is what I was told. So I don't want to have to house a minimum balance in order to earn the interest rate, and there are no fees with S&T. They adjust it. So if I would go with the no minimum balance account, they would adjust the rate for the actual services. That's why it's 1.02, but that's still an actually very good rate at the current time. If I would go to the money market, which isn't a minimum balance setup, but I would house so much in that money market to earn a higher interest rate and then sweep it over, we would have a schedule of fees. There aren't a lot of fees with the sewer authority, so I'm not worried about that, but we can make the decision on which one we'd want to go with, which is kind of nice. So they can take the remote deposits that we currently use. They can adjust it to fit with the Remit Plus, which is a software that the sewer authority currently uses. And the reason I kind of want this moving a little quicker is if I can switch the bank for a January 1 date that I'm actually cutting checks for 2020 out of S&T, I can make an even break for auditing purposes from PNC and S&T between auditing years. So that's sort of why I was kind of hoping to move it faster than starting at a January 1.
And this would be just the sewer authority accounts or also the township's accounts?
No, this is just the sewer authority's accounts.
And the township's accounts would?
They're with M&T, so they would remain at M&T.
They would remain with M&T.
Yeah.
Well, actually, this is a vote that'll have to occur with the sewer authority, correct?
Well, we had spoken, Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe through the management agreement that the township would make the...
Yeah, I believe the management agreement covers all those types of things.
Okay. So we're the only board that has to approve it, not also the sewer?
Correct,
Okay.
because you manage or run the authority.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And truthfully, you four are the only signers
Yes.
that are eligible.
And that makes sense, because when we did it at the reorganization, it was a continuation, so there was not the break that's needed here, because she wants to get her accounts up and running. So everything occurs or commences January 1. That makes
And 10 years ago, when we switched both the township and the sewer authority, we just chose separate entities. We did the same thing to make it an even break. It
makes
was
sense.
much easier to transfer things.
Makes total sense.
Okay.
So can we vote on this tonight?
We can take action tonight. It's a public meeting.
I'm just
We
saying,
can do
because
it.
she wants to get things set up by the end of the year.
If somebody makes a motion, we can vote on it.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move we approve S&T Bank as the depository for the Lower Paxton Township Authority as recommended by Ms. Knoll and Mr. Gutschall.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion or questions?
Mr.
We have
Chairman,
to
just.
select an option? Or
I would-
when do we select the option that we're going to?
Members of the board, I believe that I would, as a staff member, would appreciate the board's latitude in determining which option based on current market and analysis based on Ms. Knoll's recommendation.
In other words, we do that administratively,
Right.
That would be my suggestion.
unless there's objection.
None. Mr. Chairman, the only other thought is in my motion, it should also probably say commence January 1, 2021, or 2020.
Okay. Is
20, January 1.
It wouldn't, this relationship would not commence on January 1. It's going to commence way before that, so.
Yeah,
so
like-
We don't need to put
Oh,
a date.
then there's no date necessary.
Because you want to get it started as soon as possible, right, Lisa?
Yes.
Okay.
We
Yes,
just make it
'cause I'll
effective
need
with
to start
tonight's
getting paperwork.
motion.
Mhm.
Right.
Yes.
That makes it easier for you for implementation.
Yes, please.
Okay. Any additional discussion? Any public questions or comments? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? So the motion carries. There you
Thank
go,
you.
Alicia. Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you for your work on that.
Thank you.
We now have before us improvement guarantees, of which there are 4 items. CVS, a new bond. Okay, that's out in Blue Ridge Village. Any questions about the improvement guarantees?
My only question, Mr. Gutschall, is the release reductions are fine. Anything with the new bond, I'm assuming there's nothing that we need to know other than the fact that it is new and everything is copacetic.
It's just a new establishment for the new build for the CVS.
Fine. Mr. Chairman, I'll move we approve the 4 improvement guarantees as presented and recommended by staff.
It has been moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, aye? Aye. The next meeting of the Lower Paxton Township Board of Supervisors will be a joint meeting with the Lower Paxton Township Authority, and this will occur 1 week from tonight, Tuesday, November 19th at 7 p.m.
It says 7:30 on the,
Well, the LPTA meeting should begin at 7, correct?
Yeah, I'm not sure why that's 7:30. It should be 7.
The
It's-
authority meeting begins at 7, and then our board meeting will commence thereafter, approximately 7:30, to clear that.
Oh.
So, in any event, we'll all be here at 7 o'clock next Tuesday. Any other questions or
Oh.
comments, announcements, et cetera? If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved. Is there a second?
second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.